Welcome back to the shop, guys. This is day 2 of my YZ125 build. I'm probably going to compress day 2 and day 3 into one video because I'm not going to get as much done today. So I'll just compress it into one whole video when I upload it. So it'll be day 2 and 3 on one video. But anyway, for today, I'm going to get the back shock off of there, put the stiffer spring in it. I also have a stiffer spring for the springs for the front too, but I'll get to that when I get to the front. But I'm going to get the back shock off, put the stiffer spring in there, change out the fluid, fill her up with nitrogen, also get the back tire on it while I'm back here in the rear end working there. There are a few other things I need to do to it as I'm moving around, and I still need to get the safety wire on these grips. But alright, let's get to it. One of the things I forgot to do yesterday when I was putting this shorty silencer on, the stock silencer uses 2 mounts, the shorty only uses 1, and I forgot to replace where this top mount with this bolt. It has a double duty of holding the silencer, the stock silencer on, and also the rear fender. Forgot to replace it with a bolt here, but I found one perfect size. It doesn't stick out on that side, so alright. I'll pull the ignition cover off right here to just verify the timing marks up there. You can see the little line. The little line right here matches with the line on the case up there. It looks like if I had to pick, let me get the light up in here so you see. If I had to pick, it might be ever so slightly retarded, but that seems to be the way Yamaha's sending their bikes out these days, erring on the side of just being a hair retarded for whatever reason. I'm not sure. I'm not going to line the marks up perfectly right now. I'm going to go out and ride the bike the way it is first, and I'll try lining them up and see if I like the difference. So I'm going to leave it where it's at for right now. I actually compared it to my wife's bike over there. It's the same. It's just like the YZ250. I do know back in 06, 05 and 06 when these motors were first coming out, and on the YZ250 as well, that they actually had the marks lined up perfectly. For some reason, since then, they're kind of favoring on the retarded side, and I think that's mainly just they're trying to do whatever they can to help the motor survive if you're running them on pump gas. So I think that's what it is. And they got some shmoo down here, the dirt that gets in here a little bit underneath the cover. I'm going to clean this all out and get the cover back on. Alright, to get that rear shock off, I do have to take the subframe off. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the seat and the subframe, and let's get that shock out of there. Alright, got that off. That's the beauty of these 2-strokes. Subframes come off so easy. If you work on bikes like I do for a living, you know these modern day 4-strokes. Check that out. They've gotten pretty tough. Like, they put all the electronics over here on top of the air box and everything, like the Hondas do, and KTM's are pretty rough too with that. But all right, now let's get that shock off. All right, there she is. Got her off the bike. Let me go. I'm gonna clean that up real quick. But yeah, let me clean the shock up real quick, and then we'll get the spring off of there. Oh, by the way, this is not a tutorial on how to do this. In my videos, I actually have a tutorial pretty much on how to replace the springs on your YZ125, 250F, 450, whatever you got, YZ. I got a video on that, and I also have another video on how to change the fluids and basically service your suspension front and rear. 2 videos for them. I'll put the links for them too in the description. So I'm just going to blast through this and kind of just show you some of the highlights, because this is really not a tutorial. This is just me setting up my bike here. So let's get to it. Whew, I got to get all this done quick tonight because I got to get in the house, because apparently I guess it's my birthday today. I'm 46 years old. My wife put this together for me. Yeah, she actually put that together for me. So, alright, let me keep working. She's supposed to come in here and hang this on the wall or whatever. Yeah, that's alright. Alright, let me get this spring off there first. You know, before I do anything, if I mentioned it in the introduction, I'm putting on a stock spring from the YZ250 2-stroke, and the last thing I want to do is get these 2 springs mixed up. So I'm going to ride on here real quick. They look identical. You can get them mixed up quick. There we go. Alright, let me get the spring off, and another thing I'm going to do is check the nitrogen. Even though I'm changing out the fluid and going to refill it back up with nitrogen, I'm always just curious of kind of what they fall to, the nitrogen level. So let me get the spring off. Really, this is not a calendar. I mean, seriously, look how who can even read stuff that small? This is not a calendar. Alright, only 9 hours in the bike. 21. Let's see what the nitrogen pressure was at. And you know, a lot of people, or I know some people assume the nitrogen pressure just lowers through time on its own. It's at 105 psi. I know a lot of people assume that it lowers on its own, but it doesn't. It actually, what it is as you ride the bike, the shaft going up and down right here, a little bit of oil is lost from the inside of the body, just sitting in little crevices and stuff, and keeping the bushing lubed and the shaft lubed and everything. It's just, there is natural oil loss, and as that oil gets displaced out of here, the bladder that's in here is holding nitrogen pressure now expands because the oil is getting displaced, so it expands. As it expands, it starts reading less and less pressure, and that's really where the pressure loss comes from. It's not because it leaks out. I don't know if it would ever even leak out of this the way it's sealed up, but yeah, this one's reading 105. They're supposed to be by manual 147 psi. Like, you know, I covered all this in my video on the suspension servicing and rebuild. But all right, let me go ahead and get the fluid out of this thing and keep moving forward. Like I said, I'm going to blast through this. This is not a tutorial. I'm blasting through this. I'm just going to show you highlights. One thing I will say, for 9 hours, this bike has a lot of stains. I almost wonder if it was ever even washed. All the parts are kind of stained up. That's from someone parking it dirty and just not even cleaning it. Geez, I love these Schrader valves versus a lot of like the 450s, the new 450s and 250Fs, and a lot of the other bikes out there use that needle, that freaking surgical needle. It's so much better when it's just a Schrader valve, in my opinion. But alright, that's all done up. Just got to get the spring on it now. I like to tighten this cap on with a pair of pliers. That just keeps it from some kid in the pits from popping your thing loose and letting your nitrogen out, whatever. But yeah. Alright, let me get the new spring and pop that on. She's good to go. Check this out, guys. Alright. I went ahead and put the nitrogen pressure at 152 psi. I know they call for 147. Most people just throw them right in at 150. Everyone's got their own formula with that. I know I heard from someone that Pro Action does like 175 on every shock. It really doesn't change a whole lot in the shock's performance, except it does affect your static sag more than anything else. Because all you're doing when you add more pressure in there is you're just kind of, you saw how I compressed the shock a minute ago and it kind of comes back up on its own. That's the nitrogen pressure pushing it back up. So if you run more pressure, you're going to have a little less static sag when you're not sitting on the bike. And if you run more pressure or less pressure, you'll have a little less static sag. That's as far as a tuning tool, that's about really all it affects. Which, you know, that's something to consider. All right, the spring goes in one way, not the other. Okay, that's the loose end, so that's going to go up top. Wait, hold on. No. Yeah, that's the end. All right, keep moving forward. But I like to run about 5 psi more usually than stock on this on the nitrogen pressure. Just because I know it's going to start going down slowly right away. As soon as you start riding the bike, it's just going to start, the pressure is going to start going down. So I like to give it a little bit of a head start. I haven't explored too much as far as using it as a tuning tool, except I know that I like it when I have a shock full of nitrogen. I can generally tell when they start getting down to like 125 and stuff like that. I can feel that on the track. It mainly affects like when I'm heavy on the brakes, because that's where the static sag comes in. When your weight's all on the front wheel, you're heavy on the brakes. Less pressure, the back end will stay sagged down a little bit. More pressure, more psi. When you're heavy on the brakes, the rear end will stand up and rise up and stroke a little bit more. Now you would think that you want the rear end to stay down, but it's all tuning. And to have the rear end actually come up higher when you're on the brakes can actually, it steepens the head angle of the front forks some, and that actually does allow them to kind of catch that line better when you're going in the corner. And that's when you're on the brakes, that's usually because you're heading into a corner and you want to get that line. A good rider won't let go of their front brake until they're way up in the corner, and sometimes you'll even drag it all the way through. So all right, I'm going to leave this loose for now because I'm going to be setting the sag when I get it on the bike. So I'm just going to leave that loose. Might as well pop these off, make sure they're greased well. Well, they're clean at least. Like I said, 9 hours. It's not a lot of hours. But they're nice and clean, but let me go ahead and stick some nice greasy grease in there. This stuff is nasty. This Maxwell, I mean, look at this. Oh. But it sticks around. They're like waterproof grease. I'm just trying to get more grease in there. Sometimes they can be a little liberal with the grease from the factory. I kind of like to load them up, especially this lower shock bearing. This is the one that typically the first one to go bad out of all your linkage bearings. Although I will say they go bad not because the bearing's under stress or anything. They go bad just because it's typically the lowest of all the bearings on your linkage. So it gets dragged to all the muck and gunk, and water gets in there, and that's really what in most cases it causes them to go bad, is when some water or dirt and water gets up in there. There it is, all greased up and ready to go. Alright, I guess I can go ahead and stick this shock back on the bike. Oh wait, I might as well actually do the top bearing while I'm at it. Just totally almost overlooked that one. Now this is a symmetrical bearing, as they call it, and they kind of send these out pretty dry, and it's really, honestly, it's really hard. See, it's just like a round type. It's really hard to get grease up into that bearing. But what I try to do is at least get grease around it, pop the seals out here, get grease all the way around. It's like I said, it's really hard. It's such a tight fit bearing. Oh, they got some schmoo there. That's probably just the coating. I think they Teflon coat these. Let me blow it out. Blew my seals all off there. All right. Like I said, it's really tough to get grease. Yeah, it's like got this schmoo. See, look at that. It's pretty much dry. I don't know if you guys can see, but it's pretty much dry. I'm just going to do the best I can to smack some grease around in there and get it all in there the best I can. Put some around the seal. That's really all you can do. It's just the best you can. Alright, I'm sure you can see right there I have grease sticking out of there. I've gotten grease the best I could underneath that bearing. It's such a tight fit. And then I'll just take some grease and put around the bearing here. So maybe in theory this grease will work itself in there as it needs to. I don't know. I feel better about it though. There we go. Making a mess with the grease here. Put that seal back there again. This clean. Yeah, and tomorrow night I'll do the front suspension. She'll be close to getting ready to ride. Oh, by the way, I ordered a chain for that OEM chain. It's just, I'm not going to adjust it. I'm just going to wait for the new chain. I have to pull that back tire off in a minute and change out that back tire. But when I put the wheel back on, I'm not even going to adjust it. I'm just going to put it on the way it is. that OEM chain is just starting to get a little bit slacked out. I'd rather just start with a fresh new one. Here we go. So I got a chain on the way for her, and a new gear shifter, because remember I mentioned in the video I think that gear shifter might be bent on the last video. I ordered that, have that on the way, and have a new chain on the way, and I know I ordered something else for it, I just can't remember. Oh yeah, a 10 range heat plug, spark plug, a 10 range instead of a 9. They come stock with a 9. I'm going to bring a 10 with me. Typically I usually run about one colder plug than stock, like on the YZ125 stroke I run a 9 instead of an 8. They pick the heat range typically for the average rider somewhere in the middle. And I'm not saying I'm some really fast rider and this, that, the other thing, but I do ride a lot of sand tracks and fast tracks so you can stay full throttle a long time. So I do tax my motors pretty good on these tracks here in Florida. And so I like to try one heat range plug Kohler in this one, just to see how that does. Alright, I went ahead and took the time to copy the suspension, the clicker settings, and the high speed compression settings from my wife's bike to put it on this, because I'm the one that did all the tuning on her bike. So you know, I have it tuned really well, and it gave me a good starting point for my own bike. So I was like, you know, let me just go ahead and pull the clicker settings I have on that one and the high speed compression settings and apply it to my new one. That way when I get to the shop, when I get to the track, I'm pretty much within the ballpark. I'm sure I'm going to make some minor changes because every bike could be just a little bit, just a hair different, but I'm talking about just a hair. Typically, if these are stock bikes and you copy the settings, you're going to be pretty damn close. If you're interested in the settings that I'm using, once I get the suspension done front rear, I'll go ahead and run through that for you guys that are running these YZ125s from 2005 to 2021. Alright, I think I can get this shock back on now. I think I got her ready to go, so let me go ahead and put her back on the bike. Okay, the shock's back on. I'm going to go ahead and get the subframe back on now. Of course, can't forget a dab of Loctite on the subframe bolts. Don't like to lose any bolts when I'm out there riding. Alright, got that back all together. Oh, you know what? I forgot to tighten up the clamp for the boot to the carburetor. Let me do that real quick. That would have really sucked to go out there. Well, I mean, it probably would have made it today just fine, but yeah. Definitely want this tight. Now I gotta, oh man, my dog's trying to get up in here. What are you doing? Don't knock my camera over. Don't knock my camera over. Alright, so next thing I got to do after this is set the sag. Now, if you watch my suspension setting videos, you'll know my concept on sag. It's different than the average, but all I'm going to do is compare the static sag actually to my wife's bike. Because again, I jumped on it 2 weeks ago, and that thing felt perfect for me. I mean, it was just right on. So, she weighs about the same that I do anyway. But she weighs 147, I weigh like 152. It's really close. All I'm going to do is compare the static sag on that, and I'm going to set the static sag on this to match it. And that's just going to be good enough to get to the track and go rider. From there, if I want to bring the rear end a little higher or a little lower, I can make them adjustments at the track. If you watch my suspension, I have a whole video series actually on suspension setup. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, you'll understand how I don't really pay too much attention. I don't put all your gear on and sit on the bike, break out the measuring tape, measure it, blah blah blah, because I'm telling you, you can put all your gear on, measure that thing today, put all your gear on, do it again next week, and not make any changes, and you're going to get a different number. That's just how it is. And it can be 2 or 3 millimeters difference. It's all, you know, it's little things. Just the air temperature can actually change your race sag when you measure it. And the nitrogen pressure in the shock can change it. Just so many things can change it. You're not always going to sit on that bike the same way. It's a lot of stuff that can change it. But I like to tune it in at the track while I'm riding. I just pay attention how the rear feels. If it feels a little too tall, I bring it down. If it feels a little too low, I bring it back up. And then later on, just for craps and giggles, after I get that sweet spot where, like at the track, I'm like, okay, that's the sweet spot. Then I'll come home and break out the measuring tape and have someone, you know, hold the measure tape here. I'll sit on the bike and get the racer sag, just to get the numbers. but the numbers don't mean anything to me when I'm going around the track. What really matters to me is how it feels, and the only way you're going to figure out the best setting is by trial and error on the bike, riding it. But anyway, to get me close, I'm just going to copy her static sag, put it on that, and that's going to get me close. And once I get going around the track on Saturday, if I have to make any adjustments, I will. And just a reminder, I will be filming also when I get this bike to the track. So if you're watching this whole series, me doing all setup, you're also going to get to at least enjoy the video footage of me taking it to the track, my impression on the first ride, and any changes that I might have to make after that. Because basically what I'm doing right now is I'm actually copying that bike. That's really what I'm doing to some degree. I mean, minor things that are a little different. Like I only trimmed that side of the handlebar to make way for the throttle. On her bike, I actually had both sides trimmed because she likes her handlebars, her grips a little bit closer together. So, but I'm not going to do that to mine. I only trimmed that side just to get so that the grips are equal distance, as you've seen in the previous video. But otherwise, it's going to be pretty much a copy of her bike, except for the graphics too. Obviously, I'm going to have my own graphics on it. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just copying her bike in this one. Then once I get it to track, I'll make some changes to fit me better, and you'll get to watch that. I'm going to take the GoPro out there and have a drone and some other things, and then also and then after that, I'll be bringing it home and digging even deeper in her. After that, if you stick with it, you'll see that I will be doing the head mod on it and going to try to squeeze some more power out of her. You know, I'll ride her stock one weekend, except for the YZ piston and shorty silencer. It will be stock for one weekend, and then I will start digging in to get some more power out of her because I like power. So anyway, let me go ahead and check her static sag and copy it on this bike. Oh yeah, I'm getting real scientific here, guys. Now, you know, years ago we were in car stereos, me and my brother popped the trunk on his car one day to show someone his stereo, and he had wires going there. My brother really geeked out on electronics, but he had wires like going everywhere. And the guy walks up, and my brother was known for his car stereos. The guy walks up because that's when you know when someone really knows what they're doing, when they can have a stereo wired up like that and it sounds like that. Okay, I'm kind of like that with suspension, right? I'm not going to break out the measuring tape to compare static sags. You can feel the static sag. So here's what I'm going to do. I can tell you just by doing that, this bike, the new one here, is taller. It has less static sag. It's taller in the rear than my wife's bike. So let me go ahead and lower that down some and get them to match. So that's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to match them by feel right here. And once I get on the track, again, that's what really matters, is what's going around the track. So once I get on the track, then I will fine tune it. If I want the rear a little higher or lower, I will fine tune it right there. I'm not going to break out the measuring tape and chase numbers. I'm going by feel here because that's what matters to me, is how it feels. Alright, just going by feel. It feels like I have them even. Just like I showed you right there how I was checking it with the by feel. Definitely feels even. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mark the spanner right here. So when I go to the track, if I make changes, let's say I think it's a little too high, I want to bring it down low, and then I bring it lower, like, whoa, 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 no, actually it was good the way it was. I can always put it right back to where it was. It's a reference point. There we go, got one mark. See that little mark I put right here on it? That'll let me know. All right. Okay, I think I'm going to wrap it up for this evening. I had planned to do so much more. I wanted to get that back tire on, maybe the frame guard. Still got the safety wire to do on the grips, but I'm going to wrap it up for this evening because I have the wife in the house waiting for me. She has a birthday cake and all of that. So I'll pick up where I left off tomorrow. And this will be all be on the same video, but I'll pick it up where I left off tomorrow, and that will be day 3. I appreciate you guys watching this stuff. If you like this kind of stuff, please click like and subscribe. And I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Welcome back to the shop. Day 3 on the YZ125 build and setup. Oh, I'm way behind on a lot of stuff. I think I'm going to go ahead and start by changing the oil and getting the magnetic drain plug in there. And of course today what I had planned to do is also get that rear tire changed out, front tire changed out, and these forks serviced, fresh fluid, with also the springs that I plan on putting in it. So that's my plan for today, getting all that done. Let's see if I get it all done. Oh, it's got a safety wire, the grips still. But let me start with the oil change. Alright, went ahead and drained the oil, replaced that. I put one of the magnetic drain plugs in. I get them from Rocky Mountain, the Tusk magnetic drain plugs. I prefer them. Not only does it cut the shavings and metal that comes from your transmission just naturally, just from wear and tear, but also when I go to change the oil, if I find like a big corner of a tooth stuck on it or a big old chunk of metal, then I know I need to open that motor up before I ride it again. That has actually happened to me before. I found that on my YZ450, a nice little corner of a gear chunk on the Magnum. I went to change the oil and I didn't ride it that weekend. I opened the motor up and replaced that bad transmission gear, and I think I had to replace another gear that was right beside it that started to kind of scar up too. But anyway, I got that done. I went ahead and safety wired the grips here. These are stock grips, and they usually don't twist on the handlebars. And I mean, especially like on the throttle side, because I'm using this the G2 throttle, and it's aluminum throttle tube that's like gnarled up and stuff. They usually just hang in there. You don't have to worry about them slipping off or slipping or anything. But I still like to put safety wire on it. Not only does it look cool, but if you ride in rain or anything like that, there's less, when water gets on the grips, that's when, if they're going to slip, that's when they'll definitely slip. And this kind of keeps water from only getting so far. The stock grips only have grooves for the safety wire right here and right here. They don't have it up here like you would on your Renthal grips, but that's okay as long as most of the grip stays put pretty well. I'm good with that. Alright, I think I'll go ahead and get them frame guards on now, get that out of the way. This side right here is super easy to install. You just slide that right in there. After I screw it on, then I'll put some zip ties up top. The other side, if I remember correctly, I have to take the brake lever off to get it on. But we'll see when I get over there. I might be able to wiggle it on without taking the brake lever off. Breaking out the power tools, that's just too much twisting. Let that do the hard work, then I'll tighten it, finish it off by hand so I can feel it. Because this is what I do for a living, and by the end of the day, which it is today, right now it's about 4 p.m. I'm done with all my other repairs, so now I'm working on my own stuff. Kind of get tired of twisting and twisting. Power tools start becoming your friend. There we go. All right, let me grab some zip ties. Zip tie this one spot up here. I use these frame guards. It's not really to protect the frame for me. It's more about being able to grip the bike good. It has this nice rubber on the side and stuff, and gives you just a good platform to grip the bike. When I ride a bike without frame guards on it, mainly the 2-strokes have the thinner frames, but when I ride a bike without frame guards on it, I almost feel naked on the bike. Some of the 4-strokes, the frames are, a lot of the 4-strokes, the aluminum frame is so thick here that I don't really need the guards, but on these 2-strokes, it definitely feels better to have them. All right, got that one on. Let's go to the other side. All right, I got the lever in the way here, but let me see. I might be able to separate these pads right here, and that allow me to push the lever really low and get that all on without removing it. All right, got that separated. Let's see. I'll use my foot here. Hold that down. No, I might have to take it off. Plus the spring. Oh, no, got it. That was dumb. I forgot to put this thing in. That is tough. Huh. Screw that a little bit. Maybe I can tap it in. I don't know. Yeah, I have to get something to tap that in with. Alright, let's try it again here. Pull that back out. There we go. Now I have to do this all over again. There it is. Finish it off by hand. Alright, grab some zip ties. This side actually takes 2 zip ties, one by the brake reservoir here. There you go. And then one up top. Have a new chain coming forward. That's probably going to arrive on Friday. I know I said I had it ordered, but then I went back to my orders and somehow, some way, I actually forgot to add that in the cart. So I went ahead and ordered it today. I did that this morning. It's Wednesday, so that'll be here Friday. Hopefully it gets here early enough so I'm not out here late night putting the chain on. But hey, got that frame guard on. Now I think I'm going to go ahead and knock the forks out before I get too tired, because that's the more technical part of all the jobs I had planned to do this afternoon. So I'll get the forks off and get that out, get that done, put the new springs in it, stiffer springs, and change all the fluid. And then after, while I have that front tire off, I'll change out that front tire, and then I'll end it off by changing out the rear tire. So let me go ahead and get the forks off. Again, this is not a tutorial like I mentioned earlier on the forks. I'm just going to be blasting through this. If that's what you're looking for, how to change your springs or how to service your suspension, I do have videos on my YouTube channel covering that, and there will be links in the description to the links to them videos. Let me get these forks off. Oh yeah, totally forgot. I have an assortment of some titanium hardware to put on the bike too. Like these are for the sprocket. They feel like feathers in your hand. They weigh absolutely nothing. And I just pulled off the bolts for the front brake. It would be these two right here. And I have some titanium stuff for that too. The front brake caliper, these two right here are titanium. These are metal. You can feel the difference in your hand. These, like, it feels like you have nothing in your hand. And these you can feel the weight. So dropping a little more weight. I'll sprinkle this stuff on as I go through the job. I probably won't get it all on by the time I get to take her for the first ride this weekend. This is just stuff I've collected throughout the years. I figured I might as well throw it on the 125, keep her as light as I can. But yeah, so we're in the process of taking the forks off. Got the front brake off and some of the bolts out, front number plate off. Alright, the forks off. On most bikes, when I bring them home, I have to tighten the steering up a little bit because I like a little bit of friction in my steering. That assures me that there's no play up front. Because if you get them loose enough where there's no stiction at all, you don't know. There could be a little bit of slop in there, and that's really amplified down at your front wheel, and that's what causes the bike to feel unstable. But this is maybe a little bit a hair on the tight side, but it feels nice and smooth. And I'm just going to run it because they typically, once they get ridden hard, they get a little looser. I have to break in. This bike, you know, it has 9 hours on it, but it really wasn't ridden. I don't think anyone's ever really jumped this thing or anything. And I'm going to give her hell, so I expect that to loosen up a little bit. So I'm just going to leave it on a little bit on the tight side the way it is and see what it loosens up to. All right, got the forks off right over here. Let me go ahead and drain the fluid in them. I like to measure how much fluid comes out, especially when it's stock, just for reference reasons, see what's going on. Alright, let's see. Fork number 1. Woo, nice and clean. See, I told you this bike has not been ridden hard. I would have had that much dirtier in 9 hours. Alright, let me let this sit here and drain, and I'll come back and let you know how much I found in her. It looks like there's about 315 cc's of fluid in here. Now granted, you don't get it all out. There's always a little bit still in there, so there's always gonna be about 10 cc's left behind is what I'm guessing. But yeah, 10, but looks like look how clean that is. 315 is what I got out of her. Let me go ahead and see what comes out of the other fork leg. Compare them. Yep, and the same. I mean, you have to take a guess, but it looks like about 315 cc's or so. Maybe 320, but it's somewhere around there. That's what these are coming out as, stock. That's actually what I'm going to put back in it, because that's what I run currently in the wife's bike, and that felt good. So I'm going to start with that when I go to put it back together. But all right, let me go ahead and disassemble these and swap the springs out and change the inner chamber fluid. You do not want to get the old springs mixed up with the new springs. So as I pull this spring off, I'm going to put a zip tie on it so I know that it is the old spring. There you go. I put a zip tie on it right here. Now I can pull it off, and I'm not going to get it mixed up with the old spring. This is just a stock spring for this bike, and I'm going to be putting on some YZ125 stroke stock springs that are at 0.44. But they look identical, and you don't want to get them mixed up, or you're going to have to sit here and try to figure out which one's which there is a way to do that, and I know how to do that with just stuff, you know, standard stuff right here at the house, but that's for another video. Alright, I went ahead and bled the inner chamber with some fresh S1 fluid. Slide this 0.44 spring on there, and I'm going to reassemble this fork. Alright, them are all done up, ready to go. Got fresh fluid in them. Set this outer chamber cc, so about 315. And I have the 0.44 springs in them, so let me... and I also just copied the clicker adjustments from my wife's bike just as a starting point, since I know that bike feels good for me. So I set that to that. I'm going to also set the fork height to the same thing I have her fork height set to. Again, that's just a starter. I'll change things up once I get out there, I'm sure. But we are currently running 8mm fork height on this. That's what I'm going to set it at. So let me go ahead and get these forks on the bike here and get that set to 8mm. And I also have some quick bleed little things on the top of your fork. You press to bleed the air out of them. Have some of them to install as well. All right, I got the forks placed on the bike and torqued down on the triple clamps and everything. Before I put the fork guards back on, I think I'm going to just go ahead and put the graphics on them now while I have them off. That way I don't have to take them back off, and they're not as easy to get off once they're on the bike, because that one Allen is tucked right next to the hub. So let me go ahead and grab that graphic and put that on there. Get a little heat on here. Kind of just helps lock it in. Of course, tomorrow I'll be doing the rest of the graphics on the bike. It also works just to set them in the sun too. That helps. It is weird putting graphics on the fork guards in these YZs, because they have like Yamaha written underneath it right here and stuff. So you're basically putting a sticker on top of all that stuff. So that part's a little weird, but it looks good when it's done though. Got a little bubble there, but I'm not worried about it, because these things are so bumpy anyway that it doesn't matter down here. Now, when I get up on the tank and the fenders and stuff like that, I do try to make sure it goes on as bubble free as possible, and I always try to get them on as straight as I can. Check that out. Alright, let me go ahead and do this one now. I'll pause the camera so I can concentrate, because I don't want to make a mistake. Oh, by the way, I've been calling these Decal Works graphics. They're actually Decal Lab graphics. They're not Decal Works. I don't know why I keep saying that. You just, if you're interested, you just Google Decal Labs. It's EU. They're in Europe, but they're quick, and the price is right. I paid $175 for the full graphic kit, customized it the way I wanted it. $175 at my door, and again, you can customize it any way you want, so that's really cool. And it comes quick, less than a week almost. It arrives all the way from Europe, so if you're interested, all you got to do is, they only have like 7 sets of graphics on their actual web page. Yeah, but they only have a couple sets of graphics on their web page. So what you do is you email them and you say, hey, I would like to see all the graphics you have for such and such bike, and they'll email you back with the full list of all the graphics. So let me go ahead and put this one on. Alright, I think I got the toughest part situated. But yeah, you email them, they'll send you a list of all the graphics they've put together for the most part for everyone. You'll see this design in there as well, if you're interested in making your bike looking like the 1996. All I do is I just tell them what brands I would like to swap out on the fenders. So I try to use the brands that I currently use. Not that I'm sponsored by anyone, because I'm not. But, you know, I just try to keep it a little bit real if I can, if I use it. I don't like having like a Pro Taper decal on my fender and I'm running twin wall bars. I mean, I'll do it, you know, but if I have the opportunity to choose what brands, I prefer to do that. And of course I have them put my name on it, my number, and just tell them how you want it. Like this design right here, this the YZ125 1996 graphics, it did not come with this design on the fork. It came with something else on the fork, and I actually took a picture from Google showing this, and I said, can y'all do that to the forks? I love the graphic kit, but I just want the forks to also look like the 1996, the fork guards. And I sent them a picture of the bike, and sure enough, they sent me an email within a day showing how it came out. I was like, yeah, perfect, I'll take it. Alright, break out the heat gun. It's always good, like I said, to use the heat after you stick it on, because it just kind of makes sure it doesn't lip up on you overnight. You come out next morning, your graphics are hanging halfway off. It just really sticks in. It can definitely help when you start having to work around bends and stuff, but that'll be tomorrow. I'll cover that in tomorrow's video. Provide some tips if I have them. Who knows? You might even be better at doing this than I am. And I've done quite a few of them. Sometimes I get lucky, I get them perfect. Sometimes I make little mistakes, but I always try to get it perfect. Now I've seen some people put them on, man. They have big old fat bubbles and just hanging off the edge, and it looked like they just walked up and slapped them on. And you know, the funny thing is, if you think graphics are easy to put on, then you just haven't did it yourself yet, because they are not easy. Not to get it looking good and get it right. All right, there we go. Go ahead and put that back on the bike. All right, fun. The front tire time. Boy, I love changing tires. Yeah. I went ahead and slammed this. I didn't take the. I just got some more grease in that front bearing, because Yamaha doesn't use shielded bearings on these, and that's pretty much the first bearing that goes out on a YZ is the front wheel bearings. And all I did was just pull these out right here and just crammed grease up between the seal and the bearing there, and that'll give it a nice steady flow of grease since it's not shielded. So just slam it full there and kind of get a little bit of extra life out of it, hopefully. All right, let me go ahead and swap this tire. I'm not going to sit here and suffer you through all this. I'll be back after I get it done. Oh, check that out. Not too shabby. So Dunlop and other tire manufacturers now put this little circle on the tire, and that is supposed to be the lightest part of the tire, so that you want to they say to put the valve, put it next to the valve stem. This is an OEM tire from Yamaha, so they're the one that mounted this, and they put the dot right here next to the valve stem because that's the way they're told to do it by Dunlop. because that's supposed to be the lightest part of the tire, so you put it where the heaviest part of the tire is, which I assume would be the valve stem. But did they forget about the rim block? Because if you look all the way around this rim, you got a valve stem on that side, but you got a rim block over here. That's the heaviest side. That rim block is a lot heavier than the stupid valve stem. So that memo is actually for like street bikes and cars and stuff. That's not for motocross bikes that have rim blocks, but yet they're applying that here. I don't get it sometimes, but when I go to put the other tire on, that little dot, I always put it on the true heaviest spot of the MX tire, which is where the rim block is at. And check this out. My wife actually got me this for my birthday yesterday. Obviously it's not for the shop because I got a big old compressor over here and air lines running everywhere. That's when we go to the track. If you ever had to change inner tube at the track and you use a hand pump, it sucks. This looks pretty cool. It's got a digital gauge on it and everything. So, yeah, pretty cool little present. Well, I came out here to set my tires in the sun so they get nice and soft. It helps them go on easier if they're nice and soft. But unfortunately, it's too late in the day. The sun's setting, so I'm kind of, I don't know. I'll still leave them out here. It's better than the air conditioner in the shop. Keep them nice and chilly. Maybe they'll get a little bit warmer and softer. Woo! All right, tires are on. I got the back tire on. Got the front tire on. She's looking good. Have the suspension done. What's left? Well, I got to do the graphics and the chain. I'll have that. That's arriving on Friday because that chain is she's about done. Look at this. It's just an OEM chain. They don't really last that long, you know. Oh, before I forget, let me pump this back brake because remember I separated them pads earlier. Plus I had the back tire off. All right. So yeah, I got to do the graphics, put the chain on it, and that's, I think, really about it. I mean, I still have some titanium bolts to sprinkle on it here and there. I already got some of it up front here, right here, and right there, as well as down here. And but I have for the sprocket on the back, I have some titanium hardware for that. I have the hardware to hold on the chain guide and stuff to sprinkle all around the bike. It only drops about 2 pounds when it's all said and done with all of it. But hey, 2 pounds is 2 pounds. So let's go ahead and hop up and down on it. I'm going to hop up and down on it real quick to see how she feels. Feels good. She feels good. Whew, can't wait till Saturday to go test her out for the first time. If the weather permits, I'm hoping to take her to Family 74, MX 74, whatever they call it these days. But I'm hoping to take her over there, break her in over there, and it's a good fast track, and it's one I'm familiar with, so it's really easy to get the bike all set up. So hoping to take it there Saturday. So stay tuned because I have one more video on this tomorrow where I'll be doing the graphics and just button up the last few things, and then be taking it to 74, dialing it all in. I mean, should be pretty close right now for what it is, just because I'm copying that setup right over there. But I'll be dialing her in and see what I can get out of her, and then from there, after that, I'll be doing the head mod and try to see if I can squeeze out a little more power from her there. And I'm still on the fence of what pipe to get. If any of you guys have 125 experience, please shoot me some comments or even an email. Let me know what pipe you have and what it did for you. I'm kind of looking for something that pops, basically just enhances the whole power band. I'm looking for something that kind of pops into a good strong mid-range and pulls all the way up to the top. I'm not so much worried about losing a little bit of bottom end, but I definitely need it to, when it gets on the pipe, to come on hard and strong and just pull, because for 125, I'm kind of a little bit of a heavier guy at 152 pounds, and you know, if you short shift or shift a little bit too soon, you fall off the pipe. It's good to have a good strong mid range that you can clutch it right into to hang on to. So, whew. All right, like the fork guards, the rest of the bike's gonna look like that tomorrow. It's gonna look good. At least I'm hoping it is. Appreciate you guys sitting through this. The guys that are watching this, I really appreciate it. And if you haven't clicked subscribe, go ahead and click subscribe. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'm gonna go in the house, get a shower, and hang out with the wife a little bit later.